Okay, so here is an example of this project that one of my favorites, very strong example, and it's done with just 3 layers. So she started with a very powerful image of Stonehenge. I turned off the top 2 layers. Stonehenge with lightning. So that in itself is a powerful image that speaks to a broad audience. Anyone who has any awareness about Stonehenge. There's a lot of folklore and stories throughout history and popular culture about Stonehenge. It's one of the great 7 wonders, right? So there's a lot of historical meaning attached to this image. And then on top of that, there's the lightning. So lightning has a lot of visual meaning. Lots of, there's power in the image of lightning, and the source of electricity, and lots of, you want to think about the meaning that comes across in the original images that you choose, and who that image speaks to, what audiences are going to understand that image in a certain way. Okay, then add Freddie Mercury into the image. Who's Freddie Mercury? The lead singer of one of the legendary rock bands of our time, Queen. So then that brings in a whole other audience of people. Some people who are interested in Stonehenge and know about Stonehenge might also have awareness of Freddie Mercury, and Freddie Mercury has a whole historical context of his own in popular culture. And so combining the two then changes the meaning. It's like, okay, Freddie Mercury at Stonehenge. But then to top it off, to really take this to A-level work, she integrated the two. She wove the 2 images together in such a powerful way. What did she do? She did this. There is a layer on the top called lightning that she named lightning. I can turn that layer on top on, and it's already a powerful image, right? But now when I turn lightning on, wow. Now it's not only Freddie Mercury at Stonehenge, but Freddie Mercury has just, what did he just do? What's he doing? He is what?
It looks like he's causing the lightning to strike down.
He could be causing the lightning. Yeah, it's like channeling through him, perhaps, or he's catching the lightning bolt in his bare hands. So it's like takes this image to a whole other level now that the subject is interacting with the environment and telling a whole different story. So now it's not only a powerful image with these 2 powerful icons coming together, but because of the way that the subject is interacting, now Freddie Mercury has supernatural, superhuman powers. He's already a powerful figure in history, but then look at that, how it all comes together so powerfully and magically. It's telling a whole different story from what the original stories are in each of these images. Right? So that's the goal of this project. If you can do that, you are on fire with this project. So what do you think the technique was to get the lightning to look like it's in his hand? Can anyone tell me what the steps might be to doing that?
To me, it looks like they used a brush with like either a brush or like Dodge, something like that, to make it bright.
Mm-hmm. So it could have been some, painted on, right? Is that what you're saying, maybe?
Yeah.
Or it could have been taken from the background, right? Because if we turn off the top two layers, the lightning is all the way through here. So it could have been selected out of the background, right? And then turned into a separate layer, right? What's my favorite keyboard shortcut that you could do that with? Anyone tell me? The one I say is my favorite keyboard shortcut. So right now I turned off the top two layers and I have the Stonehenge layer selected, highlighted. And so if I were to select the lightning, maybe I'd take the quick select to do that and make a narrow.
Professor?
Sorry, say that again?
Can you hear me? I just want to let you know that I'm here.
Let me see who
Evan.
said that. Oh, Evan. Yeah, I was asking if you were here last Tuesday because I didn't have you.
I was not last Tuesday.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. All right. Okay, so I'm using the quick select tool and I'm selecting the lightning. Okay. And I can turn Freddie on to see how far I need to select the lightning, so I need to go a little bit higher. So I'm just drawing in a selection on the lightning, and I could subtract a little bit holding option. And then what do I do if I want to make, messed up there. Just add back to it by drawing through it. So what do I do if I want to make this selection its own separate layer from the background? It's the one I said was my favorite keyboard shortcut in Photoshop. Anyone remember? No one? Come on, somebody must know. How do we get, let's say you're on the background layer and you want something from the background to pull in front of your subject, to weave them in. We talked about this
brackets,
last.
Right?
Sorry?
Are you talking about the bracket?
Oh, brackets are good for changing the size of the brush. I do like those.
Oh, I'm thinking of Illustrator. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But how do you, brackets for changing the size of the brush are in Illustrator and in Photoshop. But what about when you've selected over something in your background and you want to turn it into a duplicate layer? What shortcut do you use, or where do you go to do that? Anyone know?
I know that if you want to copy it and then duplicate it that way, you could do Command V, or usually you hold Option and then you drag.
But if you want it to be in the exact same spot, like I want a separate layer of lightning, but I want it to go right on top in the same spot. So yeah, you could use Command C to copy and Command V to paste. That could work, but that's 2 steps. You can do it all in 1 step. That's why this is my favorite keyboard shortcut. And if you find it the long way, it's under Layer, New, and it's called Layer via Copy. It's Command J. That's copy and paste all in 1 step. So you select, create marching ants on your background, and then you use Command J. And see what it does? It pulls out a duplicate of what was selected and puts it as a separate layer above the background. So that's how she got lightning. So this is my lightning. So I can label this one lightning. This one's mine. And then I turn Freddie on. And then I just drag the lightning above Freddie. And it doesn't look too hot right now, but I can go in and finesse it with the eraser, or I could have drawn something in there, but but it will probably work better to use use the pixels to stay true to the actual colors of the photograph, to actually use the lightning in the photograph, and probably just use a soft brush to erase a little bit here and there to give it some glow. So she erased a little bit, but this method that I'm using right now, this is destructive editing, because I'm erasing and I can't go back and forth. So once I erase, those pixels are gone. They're not coming back. So this week I'm going to show you some ways of making selections and turning them into masks, as opposed to cutting the pixels out. So that with masking, with more different masking techniques that I'm going to show this week, you'll have more of a safeguard to be able to go back and forth. But that's so that's my version of the lightning, and I just wanted to show you the steps and remind you of this great way to really weave your subject into the environment. So if you can find something in the environment to put in front of your subject in some way that makes it look like the subject is interacting with the environment and really changing the whole meaning and story of the image, that's a great way to go. Okay, so this was her lightning, this was my lightning. Okay, I'm gonna just close that as one of my favorites. This is another one that's pretty cool. Lots of layers went into this one. This one uses a masking technique that I'm gonna show this week, that is the use of a layer mask. See this layer, how it has this little mask icon attached to the layer. So I'm gonna talk about ways of creating and working with those, with layer masks, so that you can have a little more flexibility to go back and forth when you're adjusting your shaping of your selections with using masking. So what do we have here? We've got a lot of layers here. We've got strings. His work would have probably been cleaner if he had the strings all on a separate layer, but he had actually drawn some of the strings right into the photograph. I don't recommend doing that, because if you're drawing directly onto a layer, a photographic layer, then it's really difficult to go back and forth and make changes. He's creating this marionette puppet. Arms turned as separate layers, and then this layer here has the mask on it. We're peering out of this door here, so he's used a layer mask here on top of an image, which the image, because this layer has a mask, the complete image that he got, this where he got this image is here. It's just masked. So I could temporarily turn off the mask by holding Option and clicking. Oh wait, no, sorry, that's the wrong one. That's Option. I'm gonna give you a handout. I put a handout up on Canvas that shows you how to use keyboard shortcuts with these masks. So Option click shows on your canvas, it full screens your mask, and the area that is revealing the image is white, and the area that is hiding the image is black. So this is just a representation of what's here in the little mask thumbnail, but I can Option click again to go back to the image. If I want to hide the mask temporarily, I believe it's Shift click the mask, and then you can see this is the full image that he brought in as a layer, and see the mask has an X on it, and I can Shift click again to turn the mask back on. So now the mask is doing its job of hiding all of the image so that we just see the little sliver that we're looking at through the door. So he did that layer with a layer mask. Then the door, everything else is a destructive edit, which nothing wrong with destructive editing. It's just not as forgiving. So if once you cut out the pixels, you don't get those pixels back so easily. You have to go back to the original image and redo it, make your selection. Okay, looks like I got something. Okay, Jenny's here. Thanks for signing in. Okay, so then the orange man here, let's see, I'm going to turn off these layers just so that we see what he started with. The hand is a separate layer, and then the background, and then he's got that image again there, which was underneath everything. So this was his background, and he accidentally started drawing the lines right into the background, but then I guess it didn't matter because he ended up covering them up anyway. So it's a combination of drawing and photographic imagery to really construct a brand new original image. Tells a different story. Okay, this one you might find to be familiar because I used this one as an example on one of my early handouts, but this was done for this assignment by a student. Very clever work. So who would have thought the zebra irons his coat every morning? There's a line. There's some subtle details that she created with painting, Photoshop painting, like this. There's a line light. Can you guys see that? I'm turning it off and on. That little line light right there goes a long way to really make it believable that this is a coat that's wrapped around the edge of this ironing board, and it's done so nicely, just like a fine, thin, like a thin stream of Photoshop paint that's lighter than everything. And it has overlay on it, so it blends. So I can switch the blending mode to normal, and then you'll see it's a straight line of Photoshop white paint, looks like, and then given a blending mode made it look more realistic. So now it has overlay just to make it more subtle, and it really works. Then the iron is a separate layer. And she's organized a bunch of layers together in a folder here. The suit is all organized separately, all the parts that make up the suit that's on the ironing board. Really clever the way she used the eraser to create the folds along the edge there. So drawing techniques come in handy with working with photographic imagery to really create your own image with the photographic images that you find. So then we have the ironing board as a separate layer, and we have the zebra. There are a bunch of layers within the zebra that make up the zebra. She's used some adjustment layers here and the Photoshop clipping mask technique, and looks like some masking here. The masking is used to clean up to hide the original zebra stripes. She might have also been able to use cloning, but it looks like the masking really worked. So that's this. So line light, iron, suit, ironing board, zebra. Shadows were added to make it look more realistic, like the zebra was really standing there. And then the background space, just a plain, like, kind of space of color that maybe she created with some texture, created a vignette. Really nice, really beautiful work here. Great example of how you can create a brand new story with photographic images that you put together creatively. Okay, let's see, any others? This one was clever in that the use of, or the idea of putting elements together that you wouldn't normally find together, like desert animals and cacti underwater. Well, that's a clever way to go. This one is great in the sense that this is a real famous castle, but putting a hamster on it with this funny scale relationship. So the hamster is gigantic, because if I hide this bush that he put here, you'll see, look at, there's a person there. This is the true scale. This gives you a sense of the true scale of this castle with that person standing there. But he hid the person with the bush to make this, to just completely change what you see here. Now it looks like a toy castle with a hamster running up the side of it. Doesn't even look like, I wouldn't even think this was a giant castle now. It just looks like a toy. So he put his hamster on the side of this famous castle. Great idea for this project. But I want to show one more example and show you a technique that could have been used to make the project even more effective. So here's an example of someone who does graffiti art, and I believe he put his own graffiti art in this scene to look like this graffiti art was on this wall. So what's here? There, the cans, graffiti guy, graffiti that was added to the wall, girl here, graffiti, and this was the background. Okay, so great, except if you look, the graffiti is not shaped to the perspective of the wall. So one that you can really tell is the girl. See the top and bottom edge of the girl? It's cut straight across at a perfect horizontal, as opposed to being adjusted to the edges of the wall. See how the wall has the top of the wall and the bottom of the wall are diagonal lines. So for this to look more realistic, the artwork should be snapped in perspective to the wall. And that could be done with going for your layers, going to edit and then transform, and then using perspective to warp it to fit the wall. But there's an even more advanced tool that you could try that I want to show you the steps for. I was having glitches with it, but recently George Peters was nice enough to check out my computer and solve the problem. So here's the test. I haven't tried it yet since he did some work on my computer, so we'll see if it works. So I have on your Canvas course, let me see if I already copied it over to my folder for this class. Thursday, so I have a Project 3 folder, and it looks like I do have it. So this is on Canvas if you haven't gotten it already, in the Project 3 folder, there's a handout that's called Vanishing Point and Layer Masks that we're going to look at. I'm going to open that up and start with Vanishing Point, and then there's information about layer masks, which I was just introducing you to earlier when I was showing the marionette puppet work. Okay, so but these are the steps to using the Vanishing Point filter. So I'm gonna go through them. Okay, so let's say I want to snap this girl layer into the perspective of the wall, and I want to use Vanishing Point filter. So what are the steps? Here they are. So first, highlight the layer that contains the content you would like to fit to perspective, and then load the selection. So here I have the way to load the selection using the drop-down menu, but anyone remember what my favorite way to load a selection is in Photoshop? To load the marching ants around this layer, what have I shown you before? Anyone remember? So in the handout it says to go up to select, load selection. So that's one way to do it, and then you choose what you want to load the selection around, and it refers to the layers as transparencies as far as channels go, because it's transparent all around the layer. So so you just make sure girl transparency is selected, which is the only option that it has here. So basically I don't do anything here, just leave it alone and click OK. So see, then it loads the marching ants around the layer. But what's my favorite way to do this? Anyone remember? I'm going to hit Command D to deselect to do it my favorite way. What do you do in the layers panel to load the marching ants? Come on, guys and gals, are you guys awake?
Right click.
Right click, that might work. Right click, and then what? Select pixels, maybe. Let's try it. Hey, that works. That's a way that I didn't even know about. I'm gonna hit Command D. My favorite way though to do it is to Command click the thumbnail. So when you hover over the layer thumbnail, you'll see the little icon appear for marching ants. And on Windows, it would be Control click, right? So Command click, because I'm on a Mac, on the girl. So that's my favorite way to do it. I find that to be the fastest. Okay, so that's step one. Highlight the layer, load the selection, the marching ants appear around the content, then copy. So Command C if you're on a Mac, Control C if you're on Windows. Same thing as edit, copy. I'm just gonna Command C. Then what? Then what's next? Deselect. You can hit Command D on a Mac, Control D on Windows. Deselect now. Command D. And then what? Then what's the next step here? Then we create a new layer and highlight it in the layers panel. So I'm gonna just click the add new layer button, and I'm highlighting it. I'm gonna name it. I'm gonna rename it by double clicking. I'm gonna call it New Girl, the new girl on the block. So this is my target of where I want to put the new girl that I'm going to be adjusting to fit to the perspective of the wall using the Vanishing Point filter. So create the new layer, highlight it in the layers panel. Then step 6, we go to filter Vanishing Point. I'm gonna be sad if this doesn't work. Okay, so I'm gonna go, as the layer's highlighted, I'm gonna go, oh, I can also turn off the old girl layer, because maybe I don't want to see it so I can see the plane surface of the wall better. And then I'm gonna go to filter and Vanishing Point. There it is. So here I am in the vanishing point dialog box, and it says now we're on step 7. So then we're gonna draw an area with the create plane tool by clicking points to create a plane. So there's tools on the top left here, and it automatically should be on the create plane tool, and then you want to create a plane over the surface that you want to snap artwork to. And this technique is only good if you want to make it look like artwork is on a surface, on a flat surface. So in this case, we want it to look like the graffiti is on the wall. This could be used if you're doing a mock-up of something, like you have a design and you want to make it look like a design is on a flat surface, like on a book cover, or something like that that's flat, that would be in perspective. So I'm gonna just start by clicking on the corners of the wall. Click, 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 and it puts in a grid. So I just clicked on all 4 corners, and now I have a grid to snap to, so that my artwork will snap to the perspective of the wall. Okay, next. Now we paste the content with Command V on a Mac, Control V on Windows. So I'm going to use Command V and then drag the art in, and then it snaps. Oh good, it's working. Okay, so next we want to, after we drag the content to the plane, then we need to adjust the size using the transform tool in the vanishing point window. So it's on right now, it's on the marquee tool, but we can switch to the transform tool, and then we can drag on this to change the size. And you don't have to hold shift, you could, but the whole thing's, I'm holding shift now just to show you doing this holding shift. Oh, let me just bring this up. Okay, so now she's fitting inside, but I don't have to hold shift, because if I want to be able to distort the aspect ratio, if I want her wider, then I have more flexibility if I don't hold shift. So now you see how the bottom edge of the girl and the top edge is matching the perspective of the wall nicely. Okay, so I think I like that. So then I just click OK. And now she ends up on the wall in perspective. So her top and bottom, top slant and bottom slant match the perspective of the wall. So that's the old girl, where the bottom is just cut straight across, and it's not matching the perspective of the wall. And now we have the new girl. Much better, right? One other thing that you can do to make it look like the girl, like this art is really on this wall, is to experiment with blending modes, or adjusting the opacity, or just erasing a little bit here and there to make the wall texture show through. But blending modes are good for that, so I could experiment with a variety of different blending modes till I find one that really works for this. Linear light's kind of nice so you can see the texture of the wall, but it's a little bit too contrasty. Something like hard light maybe shows the texture of the wall through it. Or maybe just something more subtle, like adjusting the opacity a little bit. Could do the trick. Okay, did someone have a something to say in chat here. Okay, Yuza's here. Welcome, Yuza. No worries. I have a question for you, Yuza, because you're one of the ones I didn't mark in last week. Were you here last week, last Tuesday?
Yes, I was.
Okay, thank you. Let me correct that. Oh, but Mav, were you were not here last Tuesday, were you?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, so would you like to see me demo that again quickly on any of the other graffiti, or you get the steps, you get the idea?
Maybe one more time.
Okay, we'll do this graffiti then here. So I'm going to run through the steps quicker now. Okay, so what's the first step? Load the selection. So I'm going to command click the layer, copy, command C to copy, and then I'm going to command D to deselect, and then I'll make a new layer. I'll click the plus to make a new layer. I'll call this new graffiti. If I spelled that right, oh well. And then I'll turn this layer off, and I have the new graffiti layer highlighted, and then I go to the filter, vanishing point filter. So filter, vanishing point, and you draw in the plane if it's not already drawn, but the plane from last time is still there, so I'm not going to redraw it. You can adjust it by dragging on the corners if you want to make any changes. Then I'm going to use command V to paste, and I'm just going to drag the graffiti down, and it snaps into place to the perspective of the wall really nicely. And then I switch to the transform tool, and then I can scale it, and I'm not holding shift because it's fun to kind of distort it a little bit. Use your imagination to how it should look. So you can distort the width or the height to fit it how you want. So now this graffiti is more fitting the perspective on the wall. So then when I'm happy with that, I just click OK. And there it is. Much better, right? Than the way it was just kind of flat, slapped on there. Now it's fitting the perspective. Looks more believable, like this guy is painting this on the wall. Okay? So that's a technique you could use if you want to snap imagery to flat surfaces in perspective. You may or may not have that as something that you need to use for this project, but it can be helpful for future projects, especially if you're doing mock-ups and you want your artwork to look like it's on something in a photograph. Okay, so I'm going to close this one, close and not save, don't save. And I want to show you some techniques now to save you time when making detailed selections. So I'm going to open up what I was working on last time, and then an image, a very detailed image of a tree. So I'm going to open. Okay, so I was doing, that was my Wednesday project. Let me get to my Tuesday, Thursday folder. Project 3. Okay, let's putting this boy in there. Open that. And then I'm just going to go open, file open, and I brought this image of a tree. Project 3. Materials. It's one of the trees I want to work with. This is the one I wanted to show you to start with. So I'm going to open this. Okay, so when you have something like this that it's very challenging, it has, if I zoom in here, you'll see like it's got a ton of little branches. How do you approach this? I want to show you some techniques that should save you time so that you don't spend a lot of time going over things manually, or like with quick select, for example, that would take forever to paint in along all the branches, right? Or with another tool that might take forever would be lasso, or especially regular lasso, but even magnetic lasso, that'll take forever. We've got some new tools that come along with quick select, like object selection tool actually might be a time-saving tool for this. Magic wand tool is more of a time-saving tool. Do you guys want to see me demonstrate with either of those for this? Yes? Okay, let's see how the object selection tool might work. Okay, so I'm going to go to, oh, and also you could, with quick select tool or with a number of these tools, there's this new select subject button. So if you have an up-to-date enough version of Photoshop, you're in luck, because this select subject button is amazing for saving time. So whether I'm on the quick select or the object select, you will have this select subject button. So I'm on the object select now, and in my options on the object select tool, I want to just make sure I have good options set up here. It's set to add to selection mode, and it's on rectangle mode. So there are two modes. You can be on rectangle mode or lasso mode. I'm on rectangle mode, and sample all layers doesn't apply because I only have one layer here on this image anyway. Enhance edge is a good one to check so that the edges will be finer, smooth pixels. And object subtract, this is nice because it shows you what that means, is where there are little holes, it's gonna make cutouts in the selection, which there are lots of little cutouts in these branches. So we need object subtract checked. And now I'm gonna just try it and click select subject button and see how well it does. Wow, that did great. Look at that. Let's take a closer look at that. I'm going to use the magnify zoom to see how well it did to go around the branches. Well, it didn't do such a good job, because look at all this it forgot about. So it did, overall it did a good job, but not good enough. So let's compare that. I'm going to hit Command D. Let's see what happens if I actually use the tool itself. The way I'm supposed to use this tool is to draw a box around what I want to select. Let's see if that does any better. So there's the object select tool. I'm going to just click and drag a box around what I want to select and see if it does any better. So let's zoom in here and see if it did a better job. Looks like it did do a better job, but it didn't get everything. So then you have to continue to work with it. So I could be on the object selection tool, and it's on add to selection mode. So I think I can just drag boxes around additional, oh wait, no, that's add. So I need it to be on subtract to subtract a hole here. So I can hold down option to toggle into subtract mode. See, now I can drag around where I want holes to be Whoops, let me drag. But see, now this is awkward using the rectangular mode. So that's when I want to switch to lasso. And I want to hold down, because I want a hole here. So I want to hold down Option and then draw a lasso around this hole. There, and then it makes the shape, the cutout shape that I want. But this could take a long time, so I don't think this is a good option exactly for this. So I'm gonna show you something even better. It didn't even get this branch here. And you can check how well it did. If it's hard for you to see how well it did just looking at the marching ants, remember you can always go to select and mask. And then use the view modes. And if I bring down, I'm on onion skin right now as my, oh no, I'm on black right now. If I go to onion skin, then you can see with transparency set to 100%, you can see how well it did, what little parts of the sky it left. And as I adjust the transparency up, I can see what parts it forgot, what parts it left out. And I can view on the whatever overlay, maybe marching ants, to just view and get a better look at how well it did. So this is on black, on white, to get an idea, bringing the background original back and just comparing. So not good enough, good but not good enough. So I'm going to cancel out of this. And then what about, let's compare this to Magic Wand. So the way you would work with Magic Wand is to select the background and then inverse select, because the background is more similar in color. There are a lot more different colors in the trees, and with the Magic Wand, the way it works is by selecting pixels that are similar in color and forming your selection based on that, of what you're gonna end up making transparent. So I'm gonna hit Command D to deselect, and I'm gonna show you with the Magic Wand. And Magic Wand also has Select Subject as a button up here, but I'm not gonna use that. And we also have options for Magic Wand, such as setting the tolerance, how wide a range of pixels you're going to select when you click on a pixel. So you can increase that number if you want to select more at a time, or decrease it if you want to be more conservative and select less at a time. Contiguous should keep the pixels on one side. If you uncheck contiguous, it should select across boundaries of different color, but I'll keep it on contiguous. So then I click, and it's selecting this area of similar pixels, and if I hold down Shift, you'll see a plus, and I can just keep clicking in more areas of pixels. Let's see if I switch to discontiguous by unchecking contiguous, and then I come over here and I Shift click. Now it's jumping across boundaries more because I have contiguous unchecked, which can save me some time. So I'm just Shift clicking to add to the selection, and I think, yeah, with the Magic Wand it looks a lot more detailed. So I'm going to zoom in here just to check things out. But keep in mind, it's selecting the sky, it's not selecting the tree at this point. So if I wanted to select the tree, what do? I need to go to Select and Inverse. Now it's selecting the tree. So we can check how well it did by going into the Select and Mask window. And we see a lot more detailed results. So we're looking at this on black. We could look at it on onion skin with the background set to transparent. We can bring in the background. And then you can adjust the edges with the radius slider, see if smart radius helps to check that on. Or you can smooth out the edges, you can zoom in. Let me zoom in with Command plus. Okay, let's see how it's looking when I look closely. So I'm just, let's see, adjusting the radius. Whoops. So you see there's still some little blue edges there, but you can adjust a little bit here with the sliders, feather a little bit could help, then bring back the contrast. Shift the edge maybe inwards a little. If you shift the edge outwards, we should see more of the blue sky, but shifting inwards can help to eliminate some of the blue on the edges. And we can also edit, so there's the quick select tool we have access to in here. So if we see a lot of blue here, I can just hold down Option to minus. Oh wait, is that what I want to do? Yeah, because I inversed the selection, so I can minus a little of that blue there. Here and there I could go in and work with that. There's also the object selection tool here could be helpful in places. So if I take that and I want to, let's see, if I want to add to the selection, let's see if or do I want to subtract? So I'm going to try subtracting. So I'm going to hold Option and drag over this little area and see what it does to it. Oh, it really cuts it out. Let me try undoing that. Command Z, and then I'll just try adding to the selection here, see what that does. No, that just adds. So I guess it's not smart enough to take on that. That probably requires more detailed work, so I could use my quick select, or this looks a little bit too difficult for quick select even, so in that case I'd have to do some manual labor with this tool here, the brush tool. With the brush tool I can go in and add to the selection or subtract from the selection. If I hold Option, I'll be subtracting, so I can hold Option and then actually erase a little bit of the blue sky wherever I see it, here and there. But you know, that's really tedious and maybe even unnecessary, but you could go in and fine-tune in certain places, and then and it's really detailed. It's done a great job. There's also down here in output settings, if you check decontaminate colors, that should neutralize the blue. So if I check, let's see if it does it. Decontaminate. It should at least make the blue into a shade of gray, so that it's not as obvious that there are little pieces of sky attached to this tree. If it does its job correctly. It might take a little time to update. I'm not seeing that it's doing such a good job at decontaminating, but that's what it's supposed to do. But when you decontaminate the colors on the edges, then it eliminates the option to just output to your regular selection, and for some reason it takes out those two options there. So you may or may not want to use that. It's fine. I could choose, this is the recommended option, which is new layer with layer mask. So I mentioned before about layer masks. From this this is, what is this? The select and mask dialog box. From this window, you can output a layer mask. So even like with decontaminate colors unchecked, I have the option to just use all my changes here that I'm making with the sliders to just modify the selection, the marching ants, and what that does to the image. Or I could turn it into a layer mask, or I could do a more destructive edit and make this a new layer, or I could make it a new layer with layer mask, or the tree itself could just be a layer in a new document with transparency all around it, or a new document with a layer mask. What one do you guys want to see? Which option do you wonder, what does that mean? Does anyone have any preference on which way I should output this to see a final result? You want to see what layer masks are like? Layer masks, anyone? Anyone for layer masks? Layer mask or new layer with layer mask? Well, I'll just do layer mask. Let's try just layer mask. So I'm just gonna go layer mask. That's my choice. Layer mask is my choice, and then I'm just gonna click OK. So now it's hiding all the background is hidden now. Let me just turn on the light because it's getting dark. So as you can see, now my background layer has a mask, a layer mask attached to it. And there's information in the handout that was about vanishing point at the top. Down below there's information about layer masks and keyboard shortcuts when using layer masks and different ways of applying layer masks. So this is one way of applying a layer mask, is to use the select and mask dialog and output a layer mask. So like I said before, you can full screen your mask itself by option clicking the mask. So now it's showing whatever's transparent is displayed as black, and whatever's opaque is displayed as white, and anything in between different levels of transparency would be displayed as shades of gray. Then if I want to bring back the regular image, I can option click the layer mask again, and right now the layer mask is what's selected. See how I can select the image, and then I would be altering the pixels of the image. If I were to use the eraser, I'd be actually doing a destructive edit, erasing the image. But if I select the layer mask, then I can go back and forth on just what's masked and what's not masked. So I can use my zoom tool and zoom in here and make lots of little, I can make little fine-tune adjustments using my paintbrush. And right now it's got gray as the colors to edit with. So gray, if I paint with gray, that means that I'm just erasing a transparent layer. But if I switch this color to black, go all the way down to black, then when I paint with my paintbrush, I'm actually painting out the layer at full opacity, except that my opacity of my paintbrush is way down. So if I bring that up, then I can just erase completely. Does this look like I'm doing a destructive edit or a non-destructive edit right now?
Destructive.
It looks destructive, but it's not, because I'm only erasing the mask. I'm not erasing the pixels of the image. So the mask is only hiding pixels. It's not actually deleting pixels. So that means I can swap back and forth from painting with black to painting with white if I press the X key or click on the swap arrows. Now when I paint with white, I can bring back the branches that I erased. And then I can just press X and swap back and forth. Or you could use the eraser if you prefer to switch tools to the eraser. Then you can also erase the layer mask. So if I just want to clean things up here. Oh, except when I have black on top, then the eraser doesn't really work that way. Let me switch to white on top and see if the eraser works now. Now the eraser works. So I can use the eraser to edit this layer mask, and I could just stick to the paintbrush and then swap back and forth between when I use the paintbrush now with white on top, I'll be bringing the image back. So I'll be like, if I come over here and I paint like that, I'm painting in more of the image with white. And then if I want to hide more of the image, I can press X, and now black is on top. So now I'll be masking out more of the image. So this lets you do fine-tune detailing with your own hand and eye coordination to just touch up on things and go back and forth. So that's a lot of detailed work in there. So it did a pretty good job. So that's with the magic wand, and then going into the select and mask dialog box, and then outputting with a layer mask. So I can drop that in. I can take my move tool and I can drop it into my destination and see how that looks there in my destination image. Drop it in. Uh-oh. Look what happened. I dropped it into the clipping mask, so it's only showing inside here. It's inside of, it's clipped inside of the Bat Boy. That's funny. So that's not what I want. So I can release this clipping mask by option clicking between the layers there. That's more like it. Except now the color balance is affecting all of the layers, which I only want the color balance to affect my Bat Boy group there. So let me just move this is my tree layer. I'm going to move it. Where do I want to move it? I want to move the tree layer. Oh, I just put it inside of the Bat Boy group, which actually, that works for me. Because I do want the tree to be affected by the color balance change here. And then I want to clip the color balance to my Bat Boy little group here by hovering between the color balance layer and the Bat Boy layer and option clicking. If you missed it last week, there's a video that goes over how I did the steps and and I talk about adding an adjustment layer as a non-destructive way to color correct an image. So now I've got the tree in there. It's a little bit the tree has the layer mask attached to it still here, and it's a little bit large. I can select this layer and hit Command T, and oh yeah, it's very large, and I can scale it down and see how this looks within this new context. So it looks like the boy is over this tree now, and it looks detailed enough for me. So then I'm just gonna press return to apply that, and then you just zoom in and look at the how it looks, and I can still continue to edit by selecting the layer mask here and going back and forth and editing. But once I'm happy with it and I no longer need the layer mask, I could remove the layer mask. So if I drag the layer mask to the trash, then it'll ask me, do you want to apply the layer mask before removing? So if I say apply, what do you think will happen? Versus delete. If I say delete, what do you think will happen? And what do you think will happen if I say apply? Can anyone guess?
Delete might
Rasterize.
I heard rasterize, which everything is raster. You might, and what was the other answer?
I said that if you deleted it, might just like revert it back to the original image and delete the mask that you created.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens when you click delete. It just deletes the mask, so then it reveals the background. But if you click apply, it does a destructive edit where instead of the image being masked, the pixels are deleted. So here, I'll show you both. So if I click delete, it does exactly what you said. It brings back the background, and now it's the full image, but I don't want to do that, so I'm going to undo. And then I'm going to drag the mask to the trash again. And this time I'm going to click apply. So now it just deletes the background that was being masked. So that's a destructive edit. Okay, so I'm going to go back and see. Let's compare. Let's see what's going to be the winning method. So that was pretty good, but it did leave some blue on the edges that there might be a better way. So I'm gonna throw out this mask and try another method. Throw this in the trash, and this time I'm going to delete the mask and show you another method that might work even better for doing detailed selections. And that method is under select, and it's color range. So this is another method that saves some time. It's like the magic wand, but it might work better. So I'm going to go select and choose color range. And now I'm in the color range dialog box here. So right now it's okay, what I want to do is I want to reset this. Let's see. So to start, it looks like it's already automatically selected the background. So just like with the magic wand tool, we want to use this tool, color range, to select the background, and then we can inverse select. So I'll start with this regular. There's a regular eyedropper, and there's an add to eyedropper and a subtract. Let's just try the regular one. So I take the regular one, and you would start maybe with a click to select a group of pixels that are similar in color, and then you choose the add dropper here, and then you hold down, oh, you don't have to hold down any key because it's already in add mode. So you just click and drag where the sky would be. And I'm just clicking and dragging downwards towards the ground till the sky gets all white. And the white represents what is selected, and you can switch from selection to image for what the thumbnail is here. You can also adjust the fuzziness slider, because that will alter the detailing in how detailed it's selected. But this looks pretty good. Then you can also choose here the selection preview. It's on grayscale, or you could choose black matte, so you can see. So what is selected is the blue sky, and what's not selected is shown as black. And if I go to white matte, what's not selected is shown as white. And quick mask, what is not selected is shown as under the mask. But normally we're on grayscale. So that's what we want. We want whatever we're trying to select should be white, and what we're not selecting should look black. And then I say OK here, and it has selected, done a really detailed selection, but it's still selecting the sky right now. So what do I do if I want to select the tree? Inverse. There's a keyboard shortcut you could remember, Shift Command I or Shift Control I. Select inverse. So now we're looking at how it selected the tree branches, and we can go into the select and mask dialog. If you click on any tool, any of the marching ant tools, you can get to the select and mask, like the lasso tool, the marquee tools. They all will have the select and mask button in the control panel, or magic wand, quick select. Any of these marching ant selection tools will have the select and mask button there, but you could always use select and then go to select and mask from the select drop down, and then we can really see how well it did. Ooh, I think it did. I think it's a winner. It did a really nice job of making a detailed selection around the branches. I think it beats the magic wand, definitely. But because I don't see any blue sky, right? That's nice. But some of the branches are gone, but I don't think people are really gonna miss every single little branch. So it's not really that important that you get every single little branch, but you could go in with quick select maybe, or manually go in and add certain branches if you want, or details that you want to add in on your detailed selection. Like I could see, okay, well that might go there. You could also use this tool here, Refine Edge Brush, might help for getting some details, but it looks like it's kind of just feathering the details. This is good for bringing out wisps of hair more than branches, but I think it's looking good the way it is. So I could use this method, and I could make adjustments here on the sliders or not. I could just go down and I could output to selection for a more destructive way to edit, or I could do a layer mask. So I did layer mask already. Let's try new. Do you think new layer would be a destructive method or a non-destructive method if I choose new layer?
Non-destructive.
Good educated guess, but new layer would actually be destructive, because instead of putting a mask down, it will delete all the background area that's transparent. So one that would be non-destructive would be new layer with layer mask. So let's try that one. So I choose new layer with layer mask and then OK. So it does an extra safeguard. So you might think, well, if it's a new layer, it's gonna put it above the original, and the original is gonna have everything, but it still would be destructive if it did not have a layer mask, because it would be actually deleting the background as opposed to just masking. So when you're masking, you're not deleting any pixels, you're just hiding pixels. So you can go back and forth easily. Oh, I got some stuff in chat here. Okay, so new layer. So Mav, you're saying new layer. Nah, that makes sense. So new layer is kind of a safeguard because it will have your original layer below it, but if you do new layer without the layer mask, it's still destructive because it's deleting the pixels on that new layer. But here we have an extra safeguard. We've got the original layer there underneath, but we also have another layer, a new layer above it with the layer mask attached to it. So the layer mask, you can select the layer mask and then you can edit the layer mask with the paintbrush or the eraser and go back and forth. So anything that looks a little kind of crispy on the edges, I can use my paintbrush and I can draw it in. Oh, but now I'm seeing that blue. So so some things I just don't even want. So I can press X and paint with the black. So that would just look better without that branch. Like certain branches that just look messy, maybe I just want to get rid of. And then that'll just look better that way with less branches. Less is more. So I can then drag this layer with the layer mask into my destination. Let me just turn off this one. So let me name this one. So this one is with Magic Wand. And this next one is done with color range. So let me so I'm going to turn this one off. And then we'll see what happens when I use my move tool and drag this tree into the destination. Puts it in there. So now it's going in the right place. So yeah, I think this one looks better. I'm going to hit Command T, zoom out and transform it down a little bit smaller. Yeah, definitely this is a winner. So the winner here between Magic Wand and color range, I would say color range did a better job. I'm going to just press return to apply that. So this, I'm going to name this layer with color range. So we can just compare. Let me zoom in here. So this is the tree with color range. I'm going to turn that one off. And this is the tree with Magic Wand. So you see with Magic Wand, it still had all that blue around the edges. Maybe decontaminate colors would have helped. But definitely the one with color range is the winner. And then I can, when I'm happy with that and I don't need to go back and forth and make any fine-tune adjustments anymore, and I want to be brave, I can do a destructive edit by deleting the layer mask. So I can drag the layer mask to the trash and then apply. So that's editing it destructively in the end, just to simplify it.